Hello, my name is Charles Blevins. I do psychic communications. I'm a spiritualist. Um, I, I do a lot of studying of different spiritualities and learning more about what it means to become enlightened. Um, so today I like to share a little knowledge, a little understanding about spirituality. I realize that every person needs to take their own spiritual journey when they're ready, and no one should be forced into a spiritual journey. Um, it's something that has to happen naturally and come from within us. So what I what I like to do is explain different parts about my spiritual journey, what I'm learning through education, books, um, internally through my own internal self, my own experiences, and so this way it helps someone um, understand better what they may be going through, what they may not be going through, um, how to apply different things into their life. And what I'm trying to explain to people is that you don't necessarily have to take a spiritual journey if you're not ready, but you can apply some spiritual knowledge into your life to live a much more happier life. Um, the purpose behind taking a spiritual journey, um, the purpose behind getting to know yourself on a deeper level than on a superficial level, um, understanding yourself through the external world, not taking the time of going within, what happens is you miss out of the complete who you are. And a lot of times in people's lives, when they start to get older, they find that they have more questions about life. That life isn't working out just the way they want it to. They don't have the love they want, the job they want, the career they want. Something's going wrong within their life, and they start asking questions and looking for answers. So, from that aspect, I'm trying to help people with those answers. So today's topic that I'm going to be talking about is love. This is probably one of the biggest issues I find taking place in people's lives because people just don't know how to love. So let me go back over here and explain to you about what I'm writing for school. Uh, so there's a book called Shadow, Self, and Spirit, and that book is right here. Let me pull it back a little. So it's an interesting book to read. I won't say that it's 100% the greatest book in the world, but it's definitely a decent book to pick up and read. Um, so what they talk about in the Shadow, Self, and Spirit is about love by approval. And I completely agree with what they're explaining about love and approval. So I'll read a little bit of what I'm writing uh, for my school so that you get a better understanding of what I'm talking about as far as love. In Shadow, Self, and Spirit, we teach our children love through approval by telling them, if you do this, I love you, and if you do not, you are bad. So what I am saying here is you tell your child, complete your homework, get good grades, and I love you. So it's a conditional approval based off of the things that they do to prove to you that they're worthy is how they perceive their love. If they do something you do not like, you spank them, you're mad at them, so they think that they're not loved. Instead of loving the child unconditionally and letting that child grow within that unconditional love. And this is a very tricky concept from this standpoint, because there are some things that, yes, you have to use conditions with things, but it doesn't have to necessarily be conditions out of love. And we many times don't differentiate the two, the conditioning, which is to keep the child safe, and the unconditional love, which is just loving the child for who the child is. So I'll continue reading. This twisted love teaches our children to obey, for they will not be loved, respected, or supported. So what's happening is when we use love mixed with the conditions of life or conditions of society, and we get them mixed up and we bring them together, then children get confused over what love is, and they're seeing the conditions. Well, we put conditions on all kinds of people in our life, and we sit there and we look at people. If they're doing something that you don't agree with, well, I don't respect them, I won't support them, I won't love them. And this is the fallacy. So you want love them, respect them, support them because they're doing something that goes against your beliefs. Well, what are you teaching your children? That love is conditional. So by loving in this manner, we stop the children from reaching full potential of what they could achieve. So now our kids think that our love is coming to them through conditions. When they perceive the world in conditions based off of love, and that's acceptance and how they can achieve things, then we cut off their full capability, because we don't know if the child is the one that could grow up and improve science, can become the greatest doctor in the world, but because we're putting conditions on that child around love and not helping that child reach its full potential and what it can achieve, then the child is unaware of its full capabilities, and now it's getting locked in to conditions within society and will not be 100% happy. The reason why I know this and I say this, so I had one young lady who came in and had a psychic communication with me, and her parents wanted her to become a nurse, but she wanted to become a psychologist. The psychologist cost more to do, but she had the brains and she had the heart to be a psychologist. She did not have the heart to be a nurse. She didn't like blood. She didn't like doing those type of tasks. And because of she doesn't like it, and everyone around her is telling her to become a nurse because of economic advantages immediately, that she can go off and support herself now instead of down the road. So what are we losing? We're losing someone who may be able to help heal more people emotionally, mentally, and help them better their lives over the long term for short-term reward. And she's not going to perform her very best at that task of being a nurse because of her heart's not in it, where her heart's into helping people mentally. I would much rather her move towards the mental status because of her heart's there and she has the brains to achieve becoming a doctor. These two different areas are different, and this is where the conditions and where people, children, perceive that love to. Now the next area that I'll talk about. Then our children bring this conditional love into relationships, imposing themselves onto their partners, calling it love. The first 15 years of my marriage, me and my spouse, we imposed ourselves on each other, calling it love. When we stopped imposing our views on each other, we stopped fighting. We grew stronger, and everyone benefited around us. So, what I try to explain to people is the person that you meet in a relationship the very first time, what you fell in love with them, is the person that you should continue to love. The person that you put your conditions on. So you go to your spouse or partner. Will you take out the trash? Will you do this? Will you do that? Will you do this? By the way, I love you. But are you loving them because they're doing all these things? Or are you loving them because of for who they are, the person that you initially met, the person that you're watching grow by you not influencing your views of life on them, but because of their choosing to grow on their own in the way that they want to grow. And this is a very tricky scenario that people don't seem to understand. And I will tell you, when you stop imposing your will on someone and you just love them just to love them, you will have a very different outcome. The things that you've been needing help with will still get done, but the conditions, the imposement on them will be gone. So many people from the outside looking in could not understand how we can love each other like that, for we have removed all conditions and love each other the way we are. I explain to people, if you fall in love with the alcoholic and you enforce changes on the alcoholic, then the person is no longer who you originally fell in love with. By enforcing someone to change, then we show that we never loved the person for them, but for the image we have in our mind. What I have found is no one can satisfy conditional love, for it is based on someone else's view. So, if you think about it, when we get into relationships, we fall in love with someone just the way they are, and then we start slowly over time trying to impose our will on them. We want them, if they change this one little bad aspect of themselves, they would be so much better. I would be so much more happier. They would be so much more happier. Our love would be stronger, and that's where the problems come in. You loved the person when you met them, and they had all these issues, and you didn't pay attention to it. You just loved them to love them. So why would you start trying to pick the person apart of all the little negative things, as if you do not have little negative things, and they need to love you just the way you are with all your little negatives and all your little positives? That's called conditional love. In other words, they can never satisfy your need because you have an image of how they should be, and they don't know what that image is, and they have an image of how they want to be. So wouldn't it be better to let them fulfill their own image of how they want to be, and then you concentrate on filling your own image of what you want to be, and loving them, good, bad, or indifferent, of that image that they feel of themselves? That's more of love. So Ron Doss has talked about love in lectures, books, and many other places. And Newsweek writes about a small portion of what Ron Doss states about love. Ron Doss is quoted as stating, "Unconditional love really exists in each of us. It is part of our deep inner being. It is not so much an active emotion as a state of being. It's not, I love you for this or that reason. Not, I love you if you love me. It's love for no reason, love without an object. You are loved just for being who you are, just for existing. You do not have to do anything to earn it. Your shortcomings, your lack of self-esteem, physical perfection, or social and economic success, none of that matters. No one can take this love away from you. It will always be there. When we act on love from a state of being and not as an emotion, then everything changes. So basically what Ram Dass is stating is we are love, period. The love's within us, it's deep within us, and it's just up to us to recognize that love that is sitting inside of us that wants to come out. When we act from a state of unconditional love towards everything in life, just not our spouses, our children, but everything, then we receive the full potential of what love is, because we're loving unconditional and we're sharing that love with everyone equally, with no conditions and no attachments to the love. We're just sharing the love. We're not acting from our emotions. Oh, this person makes me feel good, I think I love them. We're just acting from a state of being love, period. This is something very hard for people to understand because we have learned in our society conditional love. If we start breaking that habit of conditional love and start learning just to love because we are love, it has a completely different meaning, a completely different outlook on life, and it treats people completely different. So I love you no matter how you are acting, being, differences, nothing. I don't care. I just love you for that. Ram Dass goes as far as stating in one of his videos that if you love someone so much and they want to kill you, you would help them kill you. Because it's just love. You have to love someone to the point that there is no conditions on it. It's not a conditional love. You're just loving. You are love. You love everyone with just being love. I try to explain to people, yes, there are some conditions in life, but those are conditions of life to help society to keep it moving along. So just because someone speeds down the road, which they shouldn't do, those are conditions that we have to have for the best of all people. But that doesn't affect our love because we have someone in our house that wants to speed down the road constantly. That is not about love anymore. Those are about rules to help society maintain a well-balanced. But love is completely different. A state of love, a being love, has nothing to do with those conditional rules that society needs in order to maintain balance. They're two different things. They're two different understandings. If I asked anyone to do anything, I would ask them to attack their perceptions of how to love. Because of one, it will help their marriage. It would help their relationships with their family members. It would improve the quality of life for their children. Just by changing the perception of how we love. I wish I had understood this when I was much younger. I wish I could have applied this type of love to my kids at a younger state of age. I'm applying this type of love today with my children, my wife, and people around me. Because it matters. It makes a big difference. For the longest time in my life, I was seeking love from other people because that's what I was taught. Instead of seeking the love that is within inside myself and sharing it with other people and sharing it with the world. I no longer seek love. I no longer seek approval. I don't care about them. They do not matter because it's not true. Because the only person who can give me love is love coming from within. The only approval I need is none. Because I am who I am. And that's the only thing that matters, is that I'm being as true to myself as I can possibly be. I tell people this is the most important thing that you can learn about life, is learning how to love from deep within and showing that love. So it's not learning how to love, if you think about it. It's learning that you are love, becoming aware that you are love. We are taught that through fear, through conditions, and we forget what we are. When you go to look at young children, what do you see? These children love just to love. In other words, they already know that they are in a state of loving. They love everyone equally. They go up to people and they'll give people hugs without even thinking about it. They will run up to people and want to be around people in a loving state. I always find this interesting. How does a child so young know this, aware of this, without even thinking about it? They are love. The question is, how do we maintain that state of being and not changing or influencing that state of being within every child, so as they grow up, they maintain that state of love. They are love. I hope this helps everyone a little bit. I hope this explains some aspects about love. Feel free to leave comments on Facebook, YouTube on this subject matter. I'm more than happy to attempt to answer any questions, and questions that I can't respond easily with by writing. Yeah, I will be more than happy to talk to you in person or over video conference. So my name is Charles Blevins. I wish you the best in your life, and may you find whatever you're seeking. Take care.